Hi there everybody, and welcome to another video. On today's video I have this Mini R50. This is a 2004, so quite an old one now, but it's in fairly good condition. I'm going to be changing the front brake pads in it, so I just thought I'd make a video on it. And the first thing I'm going to do is get the bonnet open, and this is the brake fluid reservoir here. So we want to open that and basically leave it open. So if you check in there, you will see this has got quite a bit of fluid. Actually, it's quite full. It's on the max, if you can just see that there. It's right on the max. So the reason we want to check our brake fluid, well, first, the reason we want to open the cap is because we're going to push the pistons back. If you don't open that cap, you're going to have a lot of resistance, and we can even damage the brake fluid, the reservoir here, or we put pressure on the servo and whatnot. So that's why you definitely want to open the cap. The other thing is check the amount of fluid you have in there, because if you have, like me, quite a lot, when we push those pistons back, that fluid may actually overflow. So you may want to put some rags around it, or if it does overflow, you want to make sure you wash the area here after, because brake fluid is a bit corrosive and it can corrode the parts, obviously the bodywork here and whatnot, the panels in there. So if you get some fluid overflow, you want to rinse it and clean it. But you could sort of prevent that as well if you can siphon some of that fluid out, because that is a bit full. So I'm pretty sure if I push the pistons back, that will drip, that will overflow. So you can siphon out some of it and put some papers and rags around there, so if any comes out, you can absorb it. So having said that, I'm gonna get the car up. Luckily I'm using a ramp, and that really saves a lot of time and effort, because otherwise you have to jack up the car and put it on axle stands, or you do one side first and then you do the other side, but you still need axle stands to be safe. So anyway, I'll get the car up, remove the front wheels, and then get on with the job. I'm gonna do one side. I'm going to show you the side that actually has also the sensor in it. So this is the sensor that measures the wearing of the pad. These are the pads I've got. This one's here, Bosch. So one thing to remember is, although many cars may have the same discs and pads, sometimes they are slightly different depending on the year and the model. So if you have a Cooper S or just the 1.4, the discs sometimes could be a bit smaller, or the pads may be smaller. So always get the parts using your own registration or your own chassis. Otherwise you may get these parts and then they don't fit your car. So anyway, I'll go ahead and remove the wheels. Okay, so wheel is off, and I turn the steering to the right, so I can tackle the brakes a little bit easier, because this is facing me. But I just realized that the side that I'm actually going to do, it's the other side, because that side, so this side has the sensor. So when you do whichever side you do, you can just tilt the steering towards yourself. So in this case, we can tilt it to the left, and then you have a better access. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this spring here. So let's get on with this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this spring here. So you can do that with a flathead screwdriver. Just remove the little bit there. It's just pinned in there, so just push it out. And this will spring out. So putting this back usually it's not too much trouble, but it can be a bit of fun. So there we are. That's the little spring there. With that out of the way, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to push the piston back while the caliper is on using a flathead screwdriver, just putting it on the side there, and you wedge it against the disc and the caliper and then push. Basically we're pushing the caliper towards that side, and therefore the piston is going in, and this is when the fluid gets pushed back into the brake fluid reservoir, and if it's too full, starts leaking. Right, so that's quite a bit there that's been pushed. And just pushing it a little bit more there, wedging against the pad and the disc. Doesn't matter if you damage this pad anymore because you are changing it. So with that done, got the sensor here. I want to pull that out as well. That may break in the process, but it's just plugged in there, but I've got a new one obviously, so I'm not too bothered if it breaks, but just want to get it out of the way. Right, there we are. And actually this sensor is still okay. It hasn't really touched the disc yet, so I could potentially reuse that because it's in good condition, but for the purpose of the video we're gonna change it anyway because I have a new one, and we just need to follow it through, obviously, all the way to the place where it plugs in, and we'll do that in a minute. First we're going to remove these little dust covers here. So we have one there, they just push out, and then there's another one here. Again, just push it out, and that should come out. And then with a 7mm Allen key, we can undo the bolts that are in here that hold the caliper in place. They shouldn't be too tight. I mean, they only get tightened to about between 25 and 30 Newton meters. That's usually the torque for most caliper bolts, but I will try to find the official torque setting so I can put it on the video. If I can't find it, then obviously just use common sense. Obviously don't over tighten them, because you can damage them, and if you damage it, if you damage the thread or the thread on the caliper carrier, then obviously you have to replace that, and that costs more money. So we're gonna move these 2 bolts. You can take them all the way out, and we'll give this a little wipe, or we'll just brush them a bit with a wire brush to clean them a little bit. Now we can get caliper out, and one of the pads will be there, this one here, so you can take that pad out and that one out as well. And I don't want to leave the caliper hanging there because it's putting a bit of strain on the brake pipe there, this rubber hose. So I'm just gonna put it up here and rest it on the disc basically for the time being. Try not to bend the hose too much, but that's basically what I'm doing. Just putting it up there. So now these are my pads, and these pads, they still have pad on them. I did tell, this car belongs to a friend actually, and I did tell him not to change this yet because you still have quite a bit of pad left. However, he insisted and he really wanted me to change them, so I am changing them. Now I have a soft wire brush here, and we can wire brush these areas. These areas here is where the pads slide, so just give them a clean. If you see much corrosion or bits of corrosion, that's what you want to try and remove, so your pads can slide nicely. These don't have too much. This car is only done about 50,000 miles, so it hasn't really spent that much time on the roads to get too corroded, even though it's quite an old car now, 2004. So anyway, we want to give this bit of a brush. Nothing too dramatic. You can spend as much time as you like cleaning those, there's no harm. And also I have this, so I will use my wire brush to remove any of that black stuff that forms on them, just so it can slide better. So again, these are not too bad. Sometimes you see, if you work on a car that's done 100,000 miles or so, then these can be really this can really accumulate a lot of dirt. So again, you can spend as much time as you like polishing this, but all you want is just to have them a bit clean. And you also want to wire brush your caliper a little bit. You would have accumulated some dust and whatnot, dirt and everything. So this is really soft, the one that I'm using here. So because this rubber here is quite sensitive to this. Some of these are quite hard. There are some really hard ones, and they can pierce this rubber here. So you want to be careful with this rubber. If you pierce it, then water will get in there and your piston will cease and will stop working, and then you will need a new caliper. That sometimes happens anyway. With time it can happen, but obviously if you can avoid it, then it's all part of the taking your time and a good maintenance. And so, as I said, the one that I'm using here is nice and soft. It doesn't damage the rubber, but I'm still careful with it. This one here is a bit harder, so I can use this one on these sides. Give this a bit of a clean, and being careful not to touch the rubber there. Okay, so once you finish wire brushing, you could rinse the area with a bit of brake cleaner. So this is brake cleaner fluid, just cleaning any of the dust that is around. Also on the caliper itself, you could just rinse it. Okay, and this brake cleaner usually evaporates fairly quickly, and once it's evaporated, I'm going to put a little bit of copper grease on these parts here where the pads slide, and I'm just putting a little bit, not a lot, and obviously trying to get not to touch the disc. But if you do touch the disc with it, you just need to wipe it. Not a big issue, so I'll put a bit here as well. Right. So one of the new pads will go in there, and the other new pad will go in there, but we need to put it inside of the piston. So we'll just put it in there. Just need to push it in there. Obviously it's kind of spring loaded. Okay, and then you can get this back in there. And you have your nice clean sliders or bolts. You can just push them in there. And we I just try to put them in a little bit in by hand. It's a bit hard to turn, to be honest, but the reason I do it is just to make sure there's no resistance and they are going in the correct way. So that way when I use my ratchet, I know I'm not going to be damaging any thread on the caliper or the actual bolt itself. And like I said, this usually gets tightened between 25 and 30 Newton meters. So not a lot of force, just remember that. If you haven't got a torque wrench, obviously just use some common sense. So that's the bolt closed, completely closed there, so it's tight, and you can just apply a little bit of extra force, and that will be around the force that you need. But if you're a beginner or you haven't done this before, then it's a good idea to have a torque wrench so you get the feel of what we are talking about. And then we can put our little dust covers in there. And we are almost finished. I'm just going to turn that way, maybe we can see. I'm just going to put this spring back in here. So maybe we can see a little bit there. I just got it in. So let's start from the beginning. Just putting it in there like this, pushing this a little bit in, and then I will hold this one in place, and with my screwdriver get this part here over to that side. Like so. It can be a bit hard to press this while you're doing that, and then tap that in. And that's done. So basically what's left to do here, it's the sensor. So now we have this sensor that we disconnected. It runs along here. We need to, it's kind of wrapped around this other sensor. This is like a speed sensor, a wheel speed sensor. So we just want to unwrap it. And then if you undo this Phillips plastic pin here, we can take it out. I've already undone them. Sometimes they are a pain in the ass. You undo it and it just keeps rotating, or it gets damaged like this one here. If they do get damaged or whatever, sometimes you just need to break them, to be honest, and take them out. It's the only way, but that's how they get. Okay, now let's try to open that cover. So behind this cover, if we just open it a little bit, it's going to be the wiring is running along, and it's just connected to, I'm just going to pull out the sensor. It's very easy to pull out. It's just holding on a little on a holder there. So that's our sensor there, and all we need to do is unplug it. So you have to press there and pull it out. It can be a little bit hard sometimes. And that comes out like so. Right, so I'm gonna take this out. Somebody put a cable tie in there, so I'm just gonna cut the cable tie to get the sensor out. Okay, so that is out. Got the new one here, and we just want to plug it in there. And this can only fit one way, so if you fit it the wrong way, it's not gonna go in. Like that way doesn't fit, so it's gotta be this way, and then it goes in and it plugs in. And then there's a couple of hooks just around the back here where that plugs in, which is right next to the other plug, which is for the speed sensor. And then we have the same arrangement here. Want to wrap it round like so. Just want to make sure it's nicely wrapped. So I'm gonna do the same with the other few around here, but the last thing will be, in any case, so you just want to finish wrapping your cable, and then obviously put your screws back in here, your little pins, but the last thing here will be, so again, it goes in here, and then you put the little cover back on there, and here's your connection, and you want to push it in that bit of the pad there. You want to slide it in there, slide it all the way in until it's locked. Kind of locks into place so it doesn't come out. And we're pretty much finished here, so I'm gonna just finish with this here. Don't really need to film that. It's just putting these things around the cable, and then I'm gonna put my wheel back on, because we're pretty much we finished. We got our spring, we got our sensor, and we got our bolts in, so all that is done. So the next step will be to go into the car, pump the brake, and then check the brake fluid reservoir, see where we're at. Okay, got the wheels on. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just press the brake, and you might feel the brake goes all the way in. Just pump it a few times until it feels hard again. That will sort of push the pistons out a little bit, sort of they adjust themselves to the new pads. And then we can have a look at our brake fluid situation here. So you may be able to notice there is a bit of brake fluid around the paper I put here. So some fluid may have overflown. I can see it's not much, it's a little bit. So that's why I put that paper there. And just checking underneath the area, I can't really see any wetness or any fluid. It's all nice and dry. So my paper has absorbed some of that. These here, although a little bit difficult to see, it's a little bit you can just about see the line there, and the line is a little bit above the max, but it's not tremendously above, so I'm not too concerned with that. That's okay. If it was too far, a bit too much, then I would get some fluid out. You can still try and get some fluid out, to be fair, if you wanted to get it on, to leave it on the max, to have it on the max. But I think this car, I can see that fluid is looking a little bit dirty, to be fair, so I think it needs to be changed, and that will probably be a job for next year, because this car may need some rear discs and pads next year, and as a result maybe will be time to bleed the system. So bleeding the system will get rid of the old fluid and we can get some new fluid in there. But for today's job, we're pretty much done. Brake fluid is good, pads are new and secure, wheels are on and secure. So the first few miles you drive it, just drive it carefully so the pads can adjust to the discs. So no need to go like crazy, just be gentle until those pads wear in a little bit. I don't know, maybe 100 miles, and then this should be fine. So having said that, I do hope the video helps. Don't forget to subscribe, give me the thumbs up if you like the video, and if you have any comments or any suggestions, I'm always open to opinions and suggestions, or if anybody thinks it should be done differently, then you can let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video. So thank you for watching.